A Georgia family fighting back, claiming ICE illegally detained their mother, a U.S. citizen.
I feel like surrounded by the fact that she's not here.
Neighbors say when it rains, it floods in historic Adair Park.
When it rains here, you might as well take out your kayak and start paddling.
Atlanta News First investigates who's responsible for cleanup after heavy downpours. When systems fail, people pay the price. We trace the damage, expose the truth, and fight to fix it. This is Uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates. A Georgia family claims ICE agents illegally detained their mother, a U.S. citizen. She's one of thousands in custody at private prisons across Georgia. Investigative reporter Andy Parati uncovered President Trump's immigration policies are bringing in unprecedented business for one of those companies.
I like you to see there's a Pikachu, some Kingdom Hearts.
John and Chris Bowman show off dozens of action figures and superheroes.
It's like she loves Deadpool. As you can see, there's a lot of Deadpool stuff.
Collected by their mother.
Characters that are usually somehow abandoned by society for some reason.
In a room that brings them joy and heartache.
There have been a couple of times where I come in here, it feels kind of like I can't breathe, and I'm like, okay, well, this is hard.
A suffocating feeling because their mother is no longer here after U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement unexpectedly took Alma Bowman into custody this past March at its Atlanta field office, potentially deporting the 58-year-old to the Philippines. Family and friends rallied outside.
Keep fighting so you are released!
This is the last picture of their mother taken before it happened.
What was that like?
Heartbreaking? She didn't get to say bye or anything to us.
Within hours of taking Alma into custody, immigration officials took her here at this detention facility more than 140 miles away, where she remains today.
Records show Alma's current detention is because of a criminal conviction more than 20 years ago after writing bad checks worth $1,200, which she paid back. In response, the federal government revoked her permanent residency. But her family argues her detention is illegal because Alma is a U.S. citizen. While born in the Philippines, military records show her father, Lawrence Bowman, was an American citizen, originally from Illinois. This is the U.S. naval ship he served on during the Vietnam War when Alma was born in 1966. Alma's birth certificate shows he's the father. Her parents moved to the U.S. when Alma was 10. She's lived in Macon, Georgia, nearly 50 years.
Does she know anyone in the Philippines?
No one at all.
Would she have any support if she was forced to go?
Nope.
The rule of law has never seemed to be so meaningless.
Samantha Hamilton is an attorney with Asian Americans Advancing Justice representing Alma. Until this past March, she says ICE allowed Alma to live at home and check in about once a year since 2020 while she worked to prove her citizenship.
What changed?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is the Trump administration wanting to remove people without respect to that person's individual circumstances, or how long they've been in this country, or their ties to this country, or their lack of ties to any other country, or whether they might even be a U.S. citizen.
Alma is one of at least 2,600 people held at immigration facilities across Georgia, about half of them with no criminal record. Most detained in private prisons like CoreCivic, which operates the Stewart Detention Center in Lumpkin, Georgia, where Alma is incarcerated. Her attorney blames the government, not the company, for illegally holding her. Here's what CoreCivic's CEO told investors during its earnings call earlier this month.
Never in our 42-year company history have we had so much activity and demand for our services.
The company announced it earned nearly $500 million so far this year, nearly 50% from ICE and other federal contracts.
ICE cites a need for nearly 100,000 beds and the administration's goal of removing 1 million aliens annually.
Georgia Congressman Hank Johnson.
This is an intentional payout to the private prison industry which supported Trump's reelection.
Based on what we shared about Alma's case, do you think she's being held illegally?
Yeah, there's no question about it. The fact that one of her parents was an American means that she is an American.
I feel like surrounded by the fact that she's not here.
Alma told her children if she's deported to sell her collection. It's money they could use. A mother's love from behind bars they cannot accept.
It would make me feel like I'm selling part of my mom.
I couldn't do it. It matters too much to me, but it would feel like a piece of giving up on her.
An ICE spokesperson told Atlanta News First he would send our request for an interview to the administration. We didn't hear back. This is not the first time ICE has detained Alma Bowman. Under Trump's first term, she served about 3 years in custody involving the same deportation claims. Her attorney plans to fight her deportation in court.
It's really frustrating for this family. You do a good job at showcasing this, but even if so many lawsuits are filed on Alma's behalf, this is not going to be an easy fix for her. No quick solution.
There is no quick solution to this. The last time we updated this story was in August when her attorneys filed a petition in federal court challenging the legality of her detention. They believe that under the law at the time of Alma's birth, that the 58-year-old mother of two is a U.S. citizen. ICE disagrees.
And this could go on for a significant period of time. I know we've chatted about it because immigration court, there's some level of backlog there, right?
There is a backlog. And we reached out to ICE asking them, hey, what has changed? For years, you allowed her to essentially check in while she was working on her immigration status. So why did you decide to bring her in if she wasn't a threat to the community? And the response to me, over the phone at least, was, well, a new administration, we're going to handle things differently.
How'd you figure out about this story? It's such a compelling one. I know this is such a huge topic, especially in the political climate right now, but how'd you come across Alma's story?
We could essentially do one of these stories almost every single day. There are so many people in detention in Georgia and across the country. We received an email, just like we normally do, and getting our story tips, decided to look into this one. I thought it was extraordinary because she has an extraordinary argument for being a U.S. citizen. So that's the reason why we tackled this one.
We'll really be thinking of Alma's family during this difficult time. We look forward to the next update on this story. Thanks so much, Andy. Atlanta News First investigates, cares about your community and the issues impacting your neighborhood. Scan the code on your screen and share a story you think we should investigate. If it's one we can help you with, we'll reach out to you.
Heavy rain wreaks havoc on a historic neighborhood. Atlanta News First uncovers who's responsible for the mess when it floods.
When heavy rain happens, Atlantans brace for flooding. City leaders have worked hard on upgrading old infrastructure, but what happens when the flooding is on your property? Atlanta News First investigator Anastasia Olmos is digging into the muddy situation for homeowners in historic Adair Park.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words.
They did love it.
But these pups aren't at a dog beach. This is a doggy daycare in Adair Park after a February rain.
Clients were like, hey, my dog needs a bath. So that was an issue. And obviously there's, like the safety issue. What's floating around in this water if it's sitting there and wherever it's coming from, what it's bringing.
The daycare added permeable pavers and fenced off part of their yard. But behind the fence,
When it rains here, you might as well take out your kayak and start paddling.
homeowners say their properties become a neighborhood reservoir.
Debris and garbage and just all sorts of pollution.
Drew Stusloff bought this home off Oak Hill Avenue 5 years ago.
One of the things that's great about Adair Park is we have these great historic homes here, and unfortunately in the last 40 years or so, the neighborhood's been somewhat disinvested in.
Drew says he and neighbors invest what they can to refurbish the Atlanta bungalows.
To really take root here and take pride in where we live.
When he installed this adjoining driveway, he says the city permit required him to add green infrastructure to address stormwater runoff. When landscape architect and neighbor Zach Dibble got on the scene, it happened to be raining at the time.
And it became very evident this water was not just coming from his driveway.
Zach pumped water out of the backyard for more than a week.
April 14th, 2025.
And found the culprit.
We are starting to see a cement pipe
a pipe outlet 18 inches in diameter.
A significant pipe, something a homeowner would never put in.
But when they reached out to the city, Atlanta's Department of Watershed Management said they didn't have any record of a storm drain in that area. An employee stated the pipe may be an old private pipe of some sort, and it is not something that we can take responsibility for.
It's almost like an archaeological dig. There's layers and layers and layers of abandoned infrastructure, but it is still the city's responsibility to own and maintain that, despite the fact that it's not currently on their records.
Not getting answers, neighbors reached out to Atlanta News First Investigates for help. The original map the city gave us only shows storm drain points, not pipes, so we kept digging.
We put in a records request with the city for historic stormwater data and found a map from 1969 shows that this storm drain did in fact run straight through the back of these properties between Metropolitan Parkway and Oak Hill Avenue, now abandoned.
Could the pipe be part of this old system?
Well, we know where it goes, but we don't know where it comes from.
Watershed told Atlanta News First Investigates that this area is a low point where water naturally goes with no known public drainage systems. But residents tell us flooding issues in the Adair Park community are not unique to just this block. We found 24 residents reporting flooding to the city's 311 office in the last 2 years.
Unfortunately, I think there's a little bit of historic element here at play of this just being a disenfranchised, low-income neighborhood.
The cost to dig up the historic pipe in just these yards.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Neighbors already pouring thousands of dollars into the mud, barking up a storm of their own, begging the city to fetch a solution.
The management of this is just completely unacceptable.
When we asked if the city is going to address the neighbors' concerns, they said in part, the state constitution prohibits the use of public funds to improve private property, adding that they'd ensure the surrounding inlets were draining stormwater effectively. A spokesperson with Atlanta's Department of Watershed Management told Atlanta News First Investigates that the city does not own alleys in the Adair Park neighborhood, adding that while stormwater mapping may show connected piped systems, our internal and courthouse research of this stormwater pipe through the backyard of this neighborhood found no records of any easements documenting dedication to or acceptance by the city of Atlanta for any public responsibility outside the public right-of-way. Additionally, our research found no evidence that the city of Atlanta constructed this piped stormwater system.
Atlanta News First investigators are exposing wrongdoing, solving your problems, and helping your family make ends meet. Scan the code on your screen to subscribe to our newsletter and get every story sent straight to your inbox. Still ahead, Atlanta News First Investigates uncovers what you need to know to avoid headaches after heavy downpours. Atlanta residents claim an old pipe is flooding their historic homes with trash and dirty water. Dozens of neighbors in Adair Park have reported the issue over the past 2 years, but city officials said they have no record of the pipe causing the problem. Atlanta News First investigator Anastasia Olmos joins us now. We first aired this story a couple months ago. Since then, you've got some updates, right?
That's right. You know, when you air the story and you're thinking, I don't have an answer yet. And I felt like when I was talking to the Department of Watershed Management, I just felt like, well, who owns these alleyways, right? So the issue in the backyard there is that there was an alleyway way back in the day, could be decades ago. And some of the property records for the homeowners show that alleyway. Some are drawn into their property. So you're thinking, well, these were city alleyways that were at some point abandoned, but the city says that they do not own any alleys in the neighborhood. So I followed up with the planning department, and they were able to describe to me that once those alleyways are no longer in use, basically they just fall to the property owners to split. So they can take as much up of 10 feet, say if it's a 10-foot alleyway, they can take up to 5 feet, and then they can draw it into their property records, which then goes to taxes and land value. But they don't have to. So if it's just left, it's just there. Exactly.
And you wouldn't know if you've like just recently moved in. So it's really frustrating for these homeowners, and they've been dealing with this problem for a while. So in the meantime, all that to say, what do these specific neighbors do?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. And so many people that have either, bought a home or even just started to rent a home, and you look at it and you see, oh, look, we have a great backyard. Maybe there's a fence around it. In this case, Zach had a fence around his home when he bought the property. And so he didn't know what was behind it. My number one piece of advice is to look behind the property, fence, whether it's overgrown brush or trees. Just do as much investigating as you can on your own. Do you see any signs of possible flooding or, a storm drain? Maybe there's trash. There's always a question of, why is there trash in my backyard when this is not a sidewalk on the main street, right? How did this trash get here? Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your neighbors and say, does it flood here? In this particular area, we were able to get some tips in. We did some, I believe it was looking into the complaints that were filed with 311 there in the area. And there were complaints of stormwater flooding. And so, who knows how far back some of these drains really go in the area and who owns them. So just talk to your neighbors.
And it sounds like you're reminding our audience to be their own investigator. I want to get your take on this. Maybe showing up to the property at various times before you buy it, right? When it's sunny, also when it's raining, day, night.
Right, so just stake out the property for a full year of seasons, right? What's going to happen on this property? If you're trying to buy in the summertime, you're going to have somebody come and look at the property and, the appraiser. And I would even suggest having somebody that works in landscaping or something.
If you have access to those resources, yeah.
I work on a lot of HOA stories, and I just talked with a homeowner who's had a similar flooding issue in his backyard because there are no storm drains. And so he's had to deal, him and his neighbors, with all of this flooding, and they're in fights. And it's like, could you just talk to each other before this all happened, Look for retaining walls. Look for, storm drains that are on the end of the streets. They were filled with, in this particular neighborhood, they were filled with trash, which makes me think, well, maybe how often does this get cleaned? And maybe you can inquire with the city on, when's the next time they're going to be there. We were there shooting the drone that you saw in the video, and a tree branch was blocking the street because a storm had just come through. And so that this area is prone to different weather. So I would say as many months as you can, as many eyes as you can get on a property before actually putting your, life's investment into it.
Important points to be mindful of. Excellent work. Anastasia, thanks so much.
How many innocent people do you have to search before you find what you're looking for?
Sir, I've got nothing to say to you.
These are lives that are at stake.
How much of this funding has gone towards your nonprofit?
You also have eyes and ears, and you know what's in that internal affairs investigation.
You guys can't explicitly say, we are investigating this doctor. Why not?
You latched on and you never let go.
It sounds to me like you're doing work as a general contractor.
Yes, sir.
Are you a licensed general contractor?
No, sir.
We had to send them the Axon body camera manual to show them how to pull this.
We expect you to do better.
Stop work.
Would you share the receipts and financials with Atlanta News First?
Receipts about what?
Did you know anything about it?
No.
I don't need this extra stress.
It upsets me just to even talk about it.
You contacted what, the GBI?
GBI, the FBI, the Better Business Bureau.
Better call Harry.
Why would they offer you money?
To make it go away.
How important was our story in getting this funding?
Very important, because we didn't know that this issue existed before your study.
If I never would have saw your story, I never would have known what was going on.
The story aired that you did, thank you. And I was contacted immediately the next day by the Attorney General's office.
We would still be stuck from the beginning. And I thank you so much, Andy. We would not be here if it were not for you.
And now we've gone all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they've taken the case.
They've taken the case. They've taken the case. People have been getting away with it, and we must stop it.
It is a scathing description of serious deficiencies in this program, and I don't know whether without reporting from Atlanta News First, that would have come to light.
You can listen to all of our extended conversations on these stories right now on our podcast, Behind the Investigation. Just search Atlanta News First on your favorite podcast platform. You're watching Uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates, a weekly hour-long investigative show with new episodes launching every Sunday at 7.